standard, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. We'll start by reading the governor's disclaimer. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This public meeting of the Lawrence Licensing Board being conducted via remote participation. Members of the public must mute or silence their device until called. All right, roll call. Commissioner Darwin?
Present.
Okay. Commissioner Potter?
Here.
And Chair Santiago present as well. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the March 10th and
Motion to
previous
approve.
months. I know Commissioner Darwin, you weren't here for last meeting. So Commissioner Potter, if you can make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call, Commissioner Darwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Potter,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes as well. In the previous minutes of the meeting, I don't remember the date on that.
10.
Oh, before that,
February 24th.
24th. 24th. Have you had a chance to go over the minutes for the 24th? We actually tabled it. There was some discrepancies in there, so we just had to change. Either commissioners had a chance to go over them.
With the changes made?
The changes were made, yes, they were.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, motion made to approve the minutes. Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, Commissioner Darwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Potter,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes as well. There's no old business. We're gonna pass over table matters, leave that for last. It should be pretty quick right now. So new business, discussion regarding temporary outdoor patio permits. Right now, I'd like to get them going for April 1st, give everybody a chance to start set up, and then they can all go and apply for their, to get them inspected. So I'd like to have a motion on the table. If good, I'll entertain a motion to allow all last year's businesses, restaurants, can move forward on opening on the 1st of April, as long as they have their inspections through the fire inspectional service and police prior to opening on the 1st. So this is for last year's businesses that were open outdoors.
So moved.
Okay, motion so moved with a second. Would anybody like to speak on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, Commissioner Darwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Potter,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes as well. Do we have anyone from EVA Toco Auto Sales on Merrimack Street? I don't believe we do. Seeing that we don't have one here, I'm gonna entertain a motion to table that.
Motion to table.
A motion to table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second motion to table and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Roll call, Commissioner Darwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Potter,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes as well. So this will be tabled till next meeting. Now we can, a motion to take off the table hearing for Baca Lounge.
Motion to remove from the table.
Motion to remove from the table,
Second.
second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Darren, roll call.
Yes.
Commissioner Potter,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes as well. Do we have someone here from Vaca Lounge? Well, we don't have anybody here from Vaca Lounge, but I think we're gonna move forward with this.
Is Brian Corrigan the attorney for Vaca?
He is one of the, yes, he is.
He just sent a text asking if there was a meeting, could someone send the link? They're in a different meeting, a wrong meeting, apparently. The
Okay,
link
well,
changed?
can you, Director Amano, can you send that to him?
Yeah, I'm gonna look for his email here. Did he give you an email?
If I just tell him the meeting number, that should work, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Do you have that, Katie?
Yeah, I have the meeting number because I use the agenda login. 7:3.
Officer Myers, thank you for joining us today. It makes things a lot easier when we have Vaca up. Attorney Corrigan, are you on?
Doesn't look like he's on yet. I did also email, I found his email and sent it to him via email too.
Okay, we got Mr. Zapata's on. So once we get the attorney on, then we can proceed. We'll give him a couple more minutes. Actually, while we wait, let's schedule a next meeting instead of just sitting here. Because of scheduling conflicts, we're gonna actually shoot for Thursday, the 15th, tax day. So if we can look at the schedule, I think that would be the best day for a meeting, would be Thursday, the 15th, 6 o'clock. April 15th. Is that all right with the commissioners?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's put that in our books for April 15th, Thursday, 6 o'clock. Thank you. Okay, we got Attorney Corrigan here. We got Attorney Gomez. We got Mr. Cepeda. So we're going to move forward on this right now. This matter has already been taken off the table. We're just waiting on your attorneys. We're gonna do the same thing with Officer Cirillo, and he's here with the Officer Myers, who was the responding officer that day at Vaca Lounge. And then you'll be able to ask, move to the, you should be able to ask some questions. And then if the commissioners have any questions, we'll go that route too. So Lieutenant Cirillo, if you could stop, please.
Sure. Good evening, commissioners. I guess we could start, Commissioner, with Officer Myers' report. You can read that into the record. Once again, in his words, he was there, so I'd rather have him start, and then I'll have a couple of questions for him, and then we can open up to you for a couple of questions in the attorneys. Officer Myers, you can read your report.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you. You can read your report.
All right, so incident report number 2100086, dated February 10th, 2021. The report was timed at 4:16 in the morning. In my own words, I, Officer Myers of the Lawrence Police Department, was working my assigned shift of 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wednesday, February 10th, 2021, in fully marked cruiser number 408. At approximately 4:16 a.m., I, along with other units, were dispatched to 337 Essex Street, in parentheses, Vodka Restaurant, for the report of a disturbance. Upon my arrival, officers attempted to gain entrance through the front and rear entrances of Vodka Restaurant. Officer Mejia observed individuals run on Lawrence Street, leaving the Vodka Restaurant, and a separate group of individuals run around the back side of the building. At this time, I, along with Officer Castillo, went off with two individuals in front of 11 Lawrence Street. The two individuals were identified as Juan Herrera, date of birth 5/8/84, Carlos Manuel, date of birth 6/9/98, who both explained that they were leaving the Vodka Restaurant through the front entrance when Juan had slipped and fallen on ice. Be advised, Juan had a very large swollen bump and blood on the right part of his forehead, as well as abrasions on the left side of his face. Officers asked Juan multiple times if he wanted to get checked out by EMS and to go to the hospital, which Juan continuously refused. At this time, I radioed the dispatch to request EMS to come to my location and evaluate Juan. In fear of having a potential head injury, Carlos had explained that he would take Juan to get checked out at the hospital instead of taking an ambulance ride. At this time, I, along with Officer Castillo, made our way to 337 Essex Street in the rear parking lot, with Officers Mejia and Suarez to stand by at the rear entrance of Vodka Restaurant. Sergeant Trombley, along with Sergeant Michaud and other officers, were in front of the Vodka Restaurant. Be advised, due to Officer Mejia seeing a large gathering of people run back inside the Vodka Restaurant, in a panic in the nature of the 911 call, Sergeant Trombley requested Lawrence Fire Department on scene to open the front entrance of Vodka. Once officers gained entry, officers continued to the rear of Vodka Restaurant to find no individuals on the first floor. At this time, officers heard shouting and people yelling in the basement. Sergeant Trombley, Sergeant Michaud, along with all the other officers on scene, continued into the basement of Vodka, where units were greeted by approximately 20 individuals and the owner of Vodka, who identified himself as Alexis Cepeda, date of birth 2/11/82, who began to explain that these 20 individuals were his friends and they were staying late until after the kitchen cleaning workers were finished. Be advised, Governor Baker extended restaurants to be allowed to remain open until midnight, 12 a.m., due to the coronavirus pandemic. It is important to note that all individuals were in close proximity of each other and did not have any type of face covering as is required due to the city of Lawrence being designated as a red zone by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. While in the basement of Vodka, officers observed what appeared to be an unkept area with broken beer bottles smashed. The refrigerator walk-in where cases of beer were stored was also left open in what resembled a renovation of the basement. Mr. Cepeda explained several times to sergeants that he assures officers everything he is doing is legal and to the regulation. Cepeda also explained that they wait for the workers to finish cleaning every night, and they wait there. It is to be noted officers responded to Vodka back in December of 2020 for being over capacity of customers due to the COVID-19 regulations and guidelines. It was at this time Juan Herrera, the man who explained he had slipped on ice in front of Vodka, made his way back into the basement. I escorted Herrera to Sergeant Trombley and Sergeant Michaud, who were speaking to Mr. Cepeda, and asked what happened to Herrera. Cepeda explained he had fallen as well, and that he is one of the workers at Vodka. Officers asked individuals who were in attendance why they all ran. When they all explained they got scared. Lastly, officers cleared out the remaining individuals from the restaurant. It is to be noted that while their officers observed Canada Goose jackets and Yeezy brand sneakers, which are known to be of higher value, it is to be noted that this is what appeared to be in the remains of an after-hours party. Officers once again met with the person in control of the premises, Mr. Cepeda, Alexis Cepeda, phone number 978-872-4320, who was informed that a correspondence would be sent to the City of Lawrence Inspectional Services and the City of Lawrence Board of Health. This report will be forwarded to Lieutenant Cerullo, Lieutenant Montas, Captain McNamara, Director Mike Armano of the Inspectional Services, and the City of Lawrence Board of Health for further investigation into this incident. There's nothing further to report of this. There's nothing further to report at this time. End of report.
Officer Myers, I just got a couple of questions for you. When you arrived on the scene at 416, did you see any cleaning company, or did anybody approach you from a cleaning company?
Lieutenant Cerullo, there was no one there at the time that resembled a cleaning crew, and no one approached us insinuating that they were a cleaning crew.
All right, and when you went inside Vodka, the first floor, you didn't see anybody cleaning the kitchen, you didn't see anybody cleaning the restaurant, right?
There was no one inside cleaning the kitchen or the restaurant.
And did you at any time smell any strong chemicals like it had recently been cleaned?
There was no odor of any chemicals like it had recently been cleaned.
Okay. And in your training and experience, Officer Myers, can you tell the board what this gathering in the basement of Vodka resembled?
In the basement, in the past few weeks and months in Lawrence, we responded to several after-hours nightclub or what appeared to be illegal after-hours parties, and this resembled almost to be what exactly was that.
Okay. And you did state that when you went downstairs, you did observe about 20 people not practicing COVID-19 guidelines like they're supposed to, being followed in the city under the governor's orders, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I have no further questions for him, board. I can open it up to you guys or to the attorneys.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Corrigan or Mr. Garner. Would either of you like to speak?
Yes, good evening. Officer Myers, what were how many males and how many females were in the lower level?
Mr. Gomez, I'm not exactly sure how many males and females separately were down there, but it appeared to be about a similar ratio.
And how were they dressed, Officer Myers?
So in my report, I had mentioned a Canada Goose jacket and Yeezy brand sneakers. It appeared to be that they were dressed in higher valued clothing, given the outing.
Were any of them dressed in all black, like they were waitresses?
Not that I can remember, Mr. Gomez.
Were their jackets zippered up or down?
Again, none of which that I can again clarify. I do recall the Canada Goose jacket being zipped down, but there were some sweaters that were zipped up as well.
How many Canada Goose jackets were there?
I only observed one, Mr. Gomez.
Okay, so out of 20 people, one of them had a Canada Goose jacket.
Correct.
And how many Yeezy sneakers did you identify on the 20 people?
I only observed one, Mr. Gomez.
Okay, and by coincidence, was it the owner of the restaurant, Alex Cepeda?
To my knowledge, it was someone different because Alex Cepeda was not wearing a Canada Goose jacket.
Okay, well, so this made you suspicious of something going on, though, right?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time, Mr. Gomez? You were breaking up.
Based on your training, background, and experience in law enforcement, this made you suspicious of something going on, the clothes they were wearing?
The clothes, Mr. Gomez, in my training experiences, have been identified in other after-hours parties, in illegal after-hours parties, and hangouts, if you want to call it, from other instances that we've gone to and responded to in Lawrence.
Because out of 20 individuals at this purported after-parties engagement, one of them had a Canada Goose jacket and one of them had Yeezy sneakers.
There's a little bit of a delay, Mr. Gomez, but yes, that I can recall. I only recall and remember seeing one jacket and one pair of Yeezy sneakers.
Were any you commented that you didn't smell any of the cleaning supplies?
That's correct.
But isn't it true that you were told by the owner that they were waiting for the cleaning crew to arrive?
So specifically me, I wasn't told that, Mr. Gomez. If that was one of the other officers that may or may not have responded there, that could have been someone else. I don't recall ever being told that, there was a cleaning crew coming to arrive or on its way to arrive.
And if you would have been told that, you would have noted it in your report, correct?
That's accurate, correct.
Because everything that you observe in when you respond to the scene, you noted in the report, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Now, and based on your training and experience, when writing a report, are you encouraged to write it right after a situation like this, right after, or are you encouraged to write it a week or two later?
Mr. Gomez, so it's encouraged and enforced to write it explicitly after the incident. That being said, every night there are certain instances where something else may or may not, calls may or may not occur afterwards.
Fair enough. Do you remember when you completed your report?
Not off the top of my head, sir, but I know it was done prior to the end of shift.
Okay, great. So what's the date stamp on the report you read into the record? The time and date stamp.
Hold on one moment, please. So it says at the top in yellow, date and time, date/time printed, sir. That was a separate instance. Date and time occurred 4/16. Date and time printed.
Did I hear you correct, Mr. Officer Myers? Did you say 2/14?
Hold on one second, sir. So on my handout, sir, and mine might be different, I'm only seeing the date and time I printed it today, which is today's date. I'm not sure if you have a different date on the top of yours.
Just a point of
well,
clarification. Point of clarification.
Well,
Every time you print-
respectfully,
Sorry, Counselor,
respectfully,
but just a point of clarification. Every time you print the report, it's gonna have a different date on it. So for instance, if you reprinted it today, it would have a different date up the top, if you follow me.
I do. I
Okay.
do. Thank you. Officer Myers, so when is your report printed?
So my report was printed today, sir.
Okay. And Officer Myers, can you just walk me through your police reports, that process? Once you submit your report, is there a reviewing officer that signs off on it?
That's correct, Mr. Gomez. There's an officer in charge of the shift that is in charge of reviewing and oversight of the reports.
And do you remember the officer that signed off on this report?
That's correct. It was Lieutenant Montas, sir.
Okay, Lieutenant Montes signed off on this report. Do you remember what time that occurred?
Not off the top of my head, sir. I do not.
But would you, I mean, based on your representation earlier, it's normally done right before the shift it ends?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, and what time does your shift end?
It was at 9 in the morning, sir.
Okay, so if so the police report that I received with the hearing notice to our client Vaca has a timestamp printed from Mr. Cuddy, February 10th at 8:14 in the morning. Would you have made any changes after 8:14 in the morning to the police report?
Not that I'm aware of. And if there were changes made and amended to that, there would be a different report or some type of supplemental report since having it already been approved by an official.
Okay. And let me ask you, Officer Myers, do you have any knowledge or recollection that an amended report was produced?
Not to any knowledge. I'm not 100% sure, sir. If someone did add a supplemental, another officer may or may not have added a supplemental to my report, given what their observations and actions were. But I did not amend my report. No.
Officer Myers, did you know the purpose of your appearance today?
I'm sorry, so you were breaking up one more time again?
No problem. Did you understand the purpose of you appearing today?
It was within attendance with Lieutenant Cerullo in regards to the Vaca restaurant and the incident that occurred there.
And did you have and this report that you printed, did you check to see if there were any amendments that were made to this report before you printed it?
Now, when you say amendments, sir, can you specify? Because again, like I had said earlier, when I printed my report today, it says today's date on it, and that's the finalized copy that I get.
On the date that you produced this report, you don't keep a copy of it, do you?
I do not, sir. No.
Okay. All right. So if you could just turn to page 4 of 6 in the incident report. can you just read the last sentence that you read into the record, page 4 of 6 into page 5 of 6? The last two sentences.
Beginning with be advised, sir.
Actually, the last sentence I have is coronavirus pandemic. So the one ending, yes. So be advised would be the first sentence. And then what follows that sentence?
So to be advised, Governor Baker extended restaurants to be allowed to remain open until midnight, 12 a.m. due to the coronavirus pandemic. It is important to note that all individuals were in close proximity of each other and did not have any type of face covering as is required due to the city of Lawrence being designated a red zone by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Officer Myers, what if I told you that the report you just read into the record does not contain the last sentence that was added to the hearing notice for my clients? Could you explain how that would occur?
Then, like I had said earlier, Mr. Gomez, if I'm trying to think of how to word it. Excuse me. If that wasn't involved from when your client received it from Lieutenant Cuddy or Detective Cuddy, Thomas Cuddy, then I must have either it had been pushed back by the officer in charge that day to be reviewed and amended or changed. And that's probably why your client didn't receive, I don't want to say necessarily the wrong report, but not the completed report.
And Mr. Officer Myers, may I just point you now to page 5 of 6. And would you kindly read the second and third sentence? There's a third sentence that you read into the record that doesn't reflect my report. Could you kindly read starting where Mr. Cepeda explained?
Mr. Cepeda explained several times to sergeants that he assures officers everything he is doing is legal into regulation.
And please continue.
Cepeda also explained that they wait. Excuse me. Cepeda also explained they wait for the workers to finish cleaning every night, and they wait there.
Mr. Officer Myers, what if I told you that the report that's before me doesn't include that language? Why would the officer that signs off on the report push that back for you to add it if they weren't present? Or maybe they were. I just would like some. I think everybody on this call would like some clarification.
Clarification into what, Mr. Gomez? Exactly. I apologize.
As to how that sentence appeared in the report you're reading into the record, that is not in the report that we presently have, nor was it forwarded to us even after the previous hearing.
So, like I previously said, Mr. Gomez, if my initial report, which was more than likely the report that Detective Cuddy had given to your client and your staff there, more than likely, excuse me, more than likely that report was reviewed again by an officer in charge, who was Lieutenant Montas of that morning, who said, more than likely had expressed that he thinks that the report may have needed more information, to which I would then have reviewed it and added additional information.
Well, Mr. Officer Myers, do you take notes when you're at these when you go to these sites in preparation of reports? Do you take notes?
In regards to people, phone numbers, addresses, things of that nature, Mr. Gomez, yes, I take notes. If anyone explicitly says something to me in regards to something that I deem important, then I would also probably write that down as well and to include into the report.
So would it be fair to say that you take these notes so that you can draft an accurate report?
That's correct.
An accurate report the first time you write it.
Listen,
I'm
first
sorry,
off,
say that again?
we, on occasion, we always can review reports and add things when necessary. So I think that's an unfair question, Counselor.
I appreciate it, Officer Cirillo, but I didn't object to any of your questions.
Well, again, this isn't a court of law, and we're not here to grill the officer. The officer is here, in his words, giving you what he saw in person. This is not a criminal hearing. He's here to testify in person to his report.
Officer Cirillo, and I appreciate it. You know, what I would appreciate is the same courtesy that was extended to you, and allow me to question the witness, please. I understand that this is not a criminal proceeding, and we're just attempting to hold the same accountability that your staff is attempting to hold to my client.
And again,
Officer Myers
can amend his report after it's done. If he gets further information from the lieutenant, who was also on scene that night, and may have observed something that Officer Myers didn't observe, he can tell Officer Myers to amend the report. And I think this is an instance where this might have occurred.
And I appreciate that. I'm trying to elicit that information, Officer Cirillo, from Officer Myers. Officer Myers, just to conclude, could you go to page 6 of 6, please, of your report? And I'll just point you to, it is to be noted that this is what appeared to be the remains of an after-hours party. Could you just read the sentence that follows?
Officers once again met with the person in control of the premises, Mr. Alexis Cepeda, phone number 978-872-4320, who was informed that a correspondence would be sent to the City of Lawrence Inspectional Services and the City of Lawrence Board of Health.
Officer Myers, is there a reason this sentence you just finished reading wasn't included in the original report?
Again, Mr. Gomez, as Lieutenant Cirillo already said, and I previously explained, the report that you and your clients may or may not have gotten at 8:52 in the morning from Detective Cuddy might have been a report that was initially approved, but if the lieutenant, explains there may or may not need more information to this, they are allowed to give me access to amend the report to be then reviewed again by them with them.
Well, for these proceedings, you do agree that it would have been helpful to receive the actual accurate report, the final version, correct, Officer Myers?
Mr. Gomez, I apologize again. My connection is terrible. Can you say that one more time?
For these proceedings, you would agree that it would have been helpful to receive the final report in preparation of these hearings, correct? For everyone on this call?
For everyone on this call,
Again,
for
that
everyone on
wasn't,
this call,
that wouldn't have been Officer Myers' duty to give you that report. That was my duty. And the report that I passed the licensing was the report that I read into the record. So I think there was some confusion to the report, but the report that I read into the record was given to the licensing board as well as ISD to be scanned in. I actually gave that to Lizette Rosario to be scanned in. So it wasn't Officer Myers' responsibility to get that to ISD. It was my responsibility. And the report that I gave to ISD was the report that I read into the record on that night.
When did you turn in that report, Officer Cirillo?
I don't know the date that Lisa Rosario might have scanned it in. She might have that. I'm not sure. I know it was 14 days prior to the first meeting, but I don't have the exact date that was hand delivered to her.
And Officer Cirillo, because you were on the call last time, did it surprise you when everybody on the call noted that they did not have the report that you were reading into the record?
It didn't surprise me. It happens actually quite frequently. Reports are amended, especially when you have a situation where there's multiple officers that respond to it that might have seen something that the other officer didn't see. So I would say it didn't surprise me. It actually happens quite frequently. That's why we like to hold a lot to the criminal ones or ongoing investigations, so we have all the reports and then finally give the reports. Like Officer Meyer said, a lot of times it's a first report that's closed out and then it's supplementals, but there is occasion where a report is altered or changed. And I wouldn't say it's frequent, but it does happen. And I think this was a case. So that's why I thought it would be best to have Officer Myers here today to testify in his own words to what he saw versus what was printed.
I'll just address the board directly in the event that you do have any questions. I just wanted to point out that there were a number of very straightforward questions I had for Officer Myers that he wasn't able to answer. They were just very straightforward questions about, the apparel and what folks were wearing and, the makeup of the individuals. He did mention that it seemed like it was an even split. We provided the board prior to the first hearing a list of the individuals that were present at in the basement. Our client went on the record and represented to the board and also provided an affidavit that he was expecting a cleaning crew to come in and do a deep cleaning. Officer Cirillo questioned Officer Myers about this deep cleaning as to whether he had smelled the deep cleaning or seen the cleaners. And I think that unfairly characterized the situation because they were actually waiting for the cleaner to come in. In the previous packet that we had sent over, we included an affidavit from Romano Cleaning, from Victor Romano, dated March 9th, where he states that he goes once a month, he goes and he does this deep cleaning. And in essence, what our client does, Alexis Cepeda, is he has his staff stay behind so that they can do this deep cleaning prior to Mr. Romano arriving. Mr. Romano sprays down the areas, the public areas, the surfaces that are, for COVID compliance. And then his crew, his 20 individuals that he has, goes behind the individual that sprays, because the film that the spray leaves behind for to sanitize the restaurant is a film that needs to be wiped down. So rather than have Romano come in and bring in a staff of 5 or 10 people and put an additional burden on the customer, in this case Mr. Cepeda and Baca, he uses his staff that was already there. So they do some prep, they wipe it down. They can't spray a dirty surface. Then they wait for him to come in, and then they proceed to do their deep cleaning. In this instance, that's what this was. In the prior hearing, we mentioned to the board that based on the misunderstanding here, what we would propose is letting the board and the board know. Coming up with a schedule, letting the officers know, Lawrence Police Department and the fire department, when these deep cleanings are going to occur, so that they can actually expect some movement, some folks at the property after hours. What we're trying to do is find a solution. I mean, I'm sure Officer Myers is trying to do the best he can. We think, and it appears that there's just some issues with this report. Our review of the report and reviewing it, the notice of the hearing is for COVID violations. The reports that we received and that were submitted initially to the board didn't describe any type of COVID violations. And with further clarification, the individuals there were not friends. One person had a Canada Goose jacket. One person had some Jeezy sneakers. Respectfully, everybody else was dressed as my client would testify that they were dressed in waitress and kitchen gear because they had just finished working. I want to open it up to the board in the event that they have any questions for my client or for Officer Myers, and I'd like to reserve an opportunity just to for also Attorney Corrigan if you wanted to add anything.
Okay, actually, why don't we have, Lieutenant Cirillo, do you have any questions for Mr. Cepeda or the attorneys before we move forward? They've had quite a while here. So,
I reached out to Mr. Romano, who didn't return my phone call. In the letter that the attorneys provided, it says that the cleaning company was there at approximately 2 or 3 a.m. and that they couldn't clean the business due to the fact that police and fire were there. Well, it's clear that in the report that the officers didn't arrive to that location till 4:16 in the morning. So I'm not sure how, I had some questions for the cleaning company, how they would have seen the police there at 2 o'clock in the morning, because the police didn't arrive till 4:16. And that's in his affidavit saying that he was there between the hours of 2 and 3 a.m. So I'm really not quite sure how that worked. They never returned my phone call that I asked for. Also, I did request, just so the board knows, I did request the video, which is supposed to be stored for 60 days from VACR, so we could see people coming in and out of there. I did not receive the video as of yet. I did speak with Attorney Corrigan, who stated that he believed the video only stored for 7 days, and they were going to work on that. Again, that's a clear violation of the rules and regulations under the Lawrence Licensing Board. That's supposed to save for 60 days, and that's clearly printed in the rules and regs. Also, just one thing I want to make clear. Again, they said that they were there to clean. At the time, the restaurant closed at 12 a.m. We're talking about 4:16 in the morning. That's an awful lot of cleaning, or an awful long time to be in the basement, hidden away, out of sight. So to Officer Meyer's point, to me, not being there clearly resembles a after-hour operation in an illegal, at the very least, illegal nightclub.
thank you, Lieutenant. Does anyone on the board wish to ask any questions? Okay, I just have one thing, and I have your affidavit that you sent from Romano's cleaning that, and I do find that very hard to believe that 4:15 you have your staff downstairs cleaning. I mean, 4:16, you're talking 4 hours and 16 minutes after closing time, and I find that very unlikely. And what's going on in this city with after hours is getting quite out of control, and it's happening everywhere. And I commend the officers for going out there and doing their work to try and control that. And I think it's up to us to make sure that we enforce our rules and regulations, whether they're COVID or after hours or whatever it be. And I find it very unlikely that they were cleaning it at all. And I think that moving forward with this, we're probably gonna take a vote on this soon. So if either Attorney Gomez or Attorney Corrigan would like just a couple of minutes to close out their argument, we'll make them couple of minutes each if you want, because we don't want to drag this on for another hour or so. So quick closing arguments from either attorney, or if Mr. Cepeda would like to speak. he can-
Yeah, sure. Mr. Chairman, and Commissioners, I'll only take about a minute here, and then I'll let Attorney Gomez, since he's taken the lead on this one, to finish up. What concerns me with this case is I heard at the last hearing reference to King Lobster. And as the board knows, I was before you on King Lobster, which was a very, very egregious case. In that case, the proprietor had been warned multiple times, continued the same activity, flaunted the COVID rules, and was forced to pay for it. And probably rightly so. A very, very severe penalty in that case. And hopefully he's learned his lesson. This is not a King Lobster case. Lieutenant Cirillo at the last hearing acknowledged that Mr. Cepeda runs a very, very tight operation. His restaurant is fully COVID compliant. I've seen copies of other notices produced by Lieutenant Cirillo when he sends his reports to the chief after his team does the rounds. And I've seen citations to the Vaca Lounge being fully in compliance with COVID regulations. This was a once in a blue moon incident. You've heard from the client who has explained why his staff was there late. I realize that it sounds a little strange that they were there till 4 o'clock, but that is the testimony. Otherwise, I haven't heard anything about any illicit activity in that basement. No one was drinking. No one was drunk. No one was cited. No one was told they couldn't drive home. It was some people in the basement that were leaving the basement at the time the officers arrived. And in terms of the COVID violations, I respect the police department and their process of reviewing the reports. But it seems to me that somebody took a look at the report when it was originally drafted and said, hey, listen, you need to get some COVID violations in there. And that's when they added the stuff about the masks and the social distancing, et cetera. It strikes me that that's most likely the case here. What I would ask the board simply is just to consider Mr. Cepeda's track record. And I believe that this calls for a warning, a stern warning, but a warning. And I'm sure that Mr. Cepeda would be a model licensee going forward here. I think it would just be a shame to punish Mr. Cepeda even close to what was given out to King Lobster. This is just not a King Lobster case. And I thank the board for the opportunity to make that statement. And I'll hand the floor to Mr. Gomez if he wants to close out.
All right, thank you, Mr. Corrigan. Mr. Gomez, if you could keep it brief. Thank you. You're keeping it very brief because we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. So on page 5 of 6 in the police report for Mr. Myers, he makes a note that they had responded previously to Vaca actually being over capacity. Prior to the hearing, we send an email out to Ms. Rosario with a packet that attached incident report 2000-7478, wherein there is a police report that was that was drafted around the situation of overcapacity. At the time, the guidelines were 40%, and the capacity was 146. To our knowledge and to my client's knowledge, they were not cited for overcapacity. And I just want to make sure that that's taken into account because, you know, for that to be referenced in the police report, we want to make sure that the proper, if the board is inclined to take action against Vaca, that it does reference that they have never been fined or previously cited for overcapacity. That's just not in the record. And that's why we would point to a previous guidelines with the King Lobster, because they were verbally that they were verbally warned and cited for a number of different issues. And that's why we do believe that although we disagree with the alterations that were done with the report and the way it was forwarded it to our client as far as having notice and due process to go through this administrative proceeding, in the event that the board does recommend some type of a discipline, that it would be some type of warning, so that again, we continue to learn in these difficult circumstances.
Good, thank you. Lieutenant Cirillo, would you like to address the board before we make a decision here?
Yes, Board. Again, like Attorney Corrigan mentioned, I have been doing compliance checks since September. Vaca has been in compliance. Again, there has been a few minor issues along the way, but again, a lot of it was educational. They have been doing a good job. This is the first instance. But again, I think this was a big one. Take COVID out of it. To me, I've been around a long time. This resembles a after hours operation, or certainly at the very least a late night or over hours operation. And again, with COVID being so high, we're really trying to put a stop to a lot of these things. I think my recommendation, or the recommendation from the police department, would be a 60-day loss of license. I would ask that 30 days of that loss of license be suspended for 6 months, and 30 days to be served. That would be the recommendation from the Lawrence Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. Cirillo. At this time, I'm going to address the board. We have a recommendation, and I'm inclined to follow that recommendation. So if we can make that in the form of a motion, that would be a 60-day suspension, 30 to serve, 30 held in the probation period for 6 months. If I can get that in the form of a motion.
So moved.
Again, we had that in the form of motion. Second?
Seconded, yes.
Second. All in favor? Signify. Aye. Roll call. Commissioner Darwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Potter,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes as well. Attorney Corrigan, your client's license will be suspended for 30 days, starting tomorrow. We know that they're already working today. So starting tomorrow, that will start the 30-day suspension. You have the right to appeal to the ABCC. At this time, we'll ask Lieutenant Cirillo if he can go back tomorrow to make sure that the premises are closed.
Just shut down another bar.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just, one request, and I will, obviously, as we all know here, there's no requirement to stay the punishment while the ABCC is reviewing, but I would ask the board to consider giving us the opportunity for ABCC review before this very severe punishment is put into effect.
Pavel and Giovanni are not going to be here? No? Okay.
Good evening and welcome to the March 24th meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee, a subcommittee of the Lawrence City Council. My name is Dave Abdu and I am your chairman this evening. I'm joined this evening by my colleagues, Council President Mark LaPlante from District F, as well as my at-large colleague, Anna Levy. This evening we will be conducting 3 new agenda items, as well as any tabled matters that members may wish to entertain. I want to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get into the legal stuff. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. And now for the legal stuff. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 20 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted this evening, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access these proceedings as provided by the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may do so with the use of the following locations. They're stated in the agenda, and they include the Lawrence City Council Facebook page, the Lawrence City Council YouTube page, and that can be located on the Lawrence City Council website on the City Council landing page. So with that, I'm going to set aside the minutes for this moment. I want to leave those for the end, and then probably take an extra moment or two if anyone wishes to review them. They are somewhat dated, but greatly appreciated that we got them nonetheless. Truly appreciate that. So with that, I would also note that we've been joined by at-large City Councilor Pavel Payano. And with that, I believe Councilor LaPlante has dropped. We thank him for his time this evening. And at this time, I will entertain item number 4621, request to expend grant funds, Social Equity Access Fund, in the amount of $10,000. And that is submitted by Cassandra Abufara, the Assistant Director of our library. I would ask that Ms. Abufara please give her name, address for the record, and tell us why we're here this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Cassandra Abufara, Assistant Director at the library. So I'm here today to provide more information about the social equity $10,000 grant. It comes, it's provided by an organization called New Profit, who supports social entrepreneurship and advocates for equity and opportunity. The connection here comes with a person who works at New Profit, and this connection was made with Jessica. The person who works at New Profit connected with Jessica. They were actually college friends, and they connected, reached out, and they learned, through the speaker series events that have been happening, kind of through conversation, came about, any needs that the library is in need of currently. And computer lab furniture was actually one of the things that had come from the conversation. Our furniture they are originals from 1973. So we are just looking to make sure that there's more individual space and privacy, along with, this new ramp of getting the computer furniture, as well as making it ADA accessible as well. So this is where we're presenting.
Thank you, Ms. Abufara, for joining us this evening, and the background of this. And that is pleasing to hear that the director was able to leverage old friends, and that we use our networks. And that is a delightful outcome that this opportunity is before us this evening. Could you just give us a brief outline as to what the money would be spent on, could be spent on, and how quickly we would need to spend it?
Sure. So at the moment, we are taking a look at ideas as to what we're looking to have our computer lab furniture be. We are leaning more towards areas that it can have that where patrons can have some sort of privacy as well, where they are working individually on a computer. At the moment, if we were open at where we would be in a normal case scenario, patrons who come into our computer lab, it's pretty open. So anyone is able to kind of, walk by and things along that nature, but it also just creates some sort of privacy for the patron when they are working on a resume or anything along that nature. Also thinking, of course, ADA accessibility in regards to making sure that anyone who would be needing the computer, for everyone to be able to accommodate with their seating in that area as well. As for time frame, we are looking into, we do have the funds. We're just waiting, hopefully, on the acceptance of getting them to be expended through the council. So it's a pretty fairly fast process in regards to just getting quotes from the vendors and making sure we have the proper contract so we can move forward with getting the purchase to go.
Thank you, Ms. Abufara. And I would note, before I turn it over to my colleagues, that this is funded by the Philanthropic Giving Social Equity Access Fund that Ms. Abufara mentioned at the top of the explanation. I would also note that we're joined by Councilor Rodriguez, District Councilor from Tower Hill, District D. With that, I would turn it over to Mr. Rodriguez or Mr. Payano or Ms. Anna Levy for their questions. Mr. Payano, sir.
Thank you, Councilor. So just a really quick question. Cassandra, when do you believe that once the grant is approved, how long will it take to get the new furniture in?
We normally use a vendor called Demco, named Demco, and that's where we would purchase any of our library furniture that we are in need of, just depending on the turnaround and if they have things in stock and things along that nature. It just all depends on what they have and how long it's going to be done up. They do have furniture that sometimes has to be custom made depending on, especially in the case of our ADA furnitures. That's what happened when we had to redo our circulation desks. It took a little bit of time because they had to custom make those ADA furnitures. So it all depends on the timing and how much, I guess, of any personal touches that we need to put on them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payano. Other colleagues? Councilor Levy.
Yes, Mr. Vice President, through you. This furniture is for the second and the third floor, or?
It would be just for the second floor computer lab, at least for this amount of money is going specifically towards that second floor computer lab first.
Okay, and that is the only vendor that you already have?
No, we use, we go through our Massachusetts Higher Education Consortium. We do have a variety of vendors that we do look for, what we look through, my apologies, but Demco ends up being that one vendor that we know is flexible and, cater to the needs that we're looking for.
So this is the first time that you got this grant?
Yes, this one in particular, correct.
So when do you think that maybe to fulfill those furniture? Summer?
It should be a fairly quick turnaround because of the fact that we are looking currently in regards to the certain type of furniture and things along that line. So, to put things in perspective, we were looking at a newspaper stand that we also wanted to purchase, and this once we got the purchase order and it went through, depending on what they have for inventory, we're expected to get it in the next month or so. So as soon as we have things laid out, it should be a quick turnaround depending on what they have. And again, depending on things that are going to be custom made if need be.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Levy. Are there other questions or motions?
Motion to approve?
I believe a motion by Ms. Levy, and I believe Mr. Rodriguez seconded it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
A roll call for document 4621 that was sent to the full council. Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Anna Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Pavel Payano,
Yes.
and Chairman David Abdu.
And the chair votes yes.
Mr. Chairman, and that was a vote to send to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Did you get that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you both. And thank you, Ms. Abu Farah.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
You too. And Cassandra, the meeting our next meeting will be April 6th.
April 6th.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good one.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Next item is item number 5421, the acceptance of funds relating to Safe and Successful Youth Initiative. And it is sponsored by Eileen Burnell of the Lawrence Police Department, Director of Support Services. Our former colleague, Councilor Burnell, is here with us this evening to represent. And I would ask her to identify herself and tell us all why we are here tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Abdu. Eileen Burnell from the Lawrence Police Department. I'm here tonight on behalf of the department with regard to two grants. The first is this SSYI, the Safe and Successful Youth Initiative grant. It comes out from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security. It's an annual grant. We actually have a 7-year grant with them. We're in partnership with Lawrence Family Development and their CSU program. And as part of that grant, we get funds that we then share with our partner, and they run a series of programs, specifically education, counseling, job preparation, and job services for proven risk youth that they get referred to them through the probation department here in Lawrence. So that's the basis of the grant. I believe this is our 6th of 7 years with them on this grant, and we bring back to you annually to approve the expenditure of the funds, but we are under multi-year contract with the state. I hope that all made sense.
It does, Ms. Burnell, thank you, but I'm a little slow. So
No.
it is $700,000 total value
That is correct.
for multiple years.
It's
And-
$700,000 per year.
$700,000 per year.
Per year. Well, this year is $700,000. Prior years it's been less. Some years it may be more. It's annually that amount will fluctuate. This year is $700,000.
And could you provide us examples last year as how the money would have been spent last year?
Sure. So we have one police officer assigned to this grant, and as a detective, he meets with their counselors, and he meets with probation, and he makes recommendations of at-risk youth that might be appropriate for them. They also get referrals directly. So that the officer that's assigned to the program, we get 75% of his salary paid for through the program. So that part of it basically is about 10% of the grant. We get that. The rest of it goes to the partner, and they run programs. They run a high preparation program, which is like basically GED preparation for their young people. They have 141 young people identified in the program. Not 141 are getting all of the services. Some are getting counseling. They have a counseling agency that they partner with that's a third party to the grant. They also have a workshop in their building right there on Canal Street where they do woodworking. They have a t-shirt design and a screen printing thing. So they're teaching the kids job skills, and as well as they do jobs for outside vendors so they can make some money for the kids. So they're teaching job skills and providing jobs for the young people, as well as paying their staff. They have staff that has two different roles. I believe one is working in the building, and then people that are out on the street working to bring in young people is one of their other referral sources. So the bulk of the money goes to them. They run counseling, continuing ed, job prep, job skills. So that piece of it comes through the grant. And I don't know if you've seen, like, they have these little libraries right now. That's like the rage with them. The mayor was a big fan, the old mayor, now the new mayor. There's one at what I would call Pizza by Ozzy, which is over by like Top Donut in South Lawrence. There's one in North Lawrence. Those kids have actually built the box. They raised the money to get the books. They built the thing with books. They monitor those and keep them up. And the current policy is not to return the books because of COVID. Just take the books with you. And that seems to be really popular. And the kids are really proud of it, and they're really excited about the work that they do. But they have a lot of little projects like that going on in the city too, in addition to the big programs that are going on through the CSU building.
So thank you for that explanation. About 30 seconds into it, I realized how slow I am. No, it was perfect. I was ignorant in the fact that I didn't put the words together that it was CSU on Canal Street, and
yeah.
It is truly a great organization. The work, I was fortunate enough to be there when they were constructing it and at the opening, and the book box in front of Coco Ray's on Parker Street is awesome, and someone keeps replenishing it. So I don't know if it's Mrs. Zalski or the officer who will remain nameless, but it all came together when you started talking, and I realized I should have had more coffee before this meeting. I'm all set. If it's CSU, which it is, I'm good. I know what they're all about. I know the good work they're doing. And thank you for the explanation. With that, I'll turn it over to my colleagues who are sharper than I. So, councilors, do you have questions or motions?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, sir.
Well, once again, we have this grant in front of us, which I definitely support. I know the work that CSU is doing, and you mentioned another organization, the Family
Development. That's their umbrella. The actual corporate name is Lawrence Family Development.
Okay.
Then part of Lawrence Family Development is the CSU Center.
It's the CSU Center. Okay. So I know what they're doing exactly, and I know they're doing a great job for the youth that get referred to them. And I know that they do community work and all that stuff. I know that in previous years, when they go in front of the city council, they also, the officer that is 75% paid with this grant also comes in front of us and talk to the community, not to us necessarily, but talk to the community and express how this program is helping the youth. So I would like that to keep on happening. So if you don't mind, please invite the CSU organization to come in front of
They're
us.
on the call. The organization's on the call right now. I can see Lawrence Family Development is on the call.
And they put some information in the chat as well.
Oh, okay. I don't see that. All right, so might as well just ask him directly, like, thank you for being here tonight, and I would like to for you to share, probably not tonight because you're probably not ready, but I would like you to please send and present some information to the full city council as of how we, as a city of Lawrence, spend this money, and what's the result, the direct result of you guys working with the youth. I know it's great. Explanation is not for me, but for the record, and also for the community up there to know about your services.
Also, just to clarify, the 10% that we get as a city is allocated against his salary. So that goes into the general fund. Like, we don't have that money to go buy bicycles or something like that. Like, the 10% that we receive is allocated directly to salary. So I just want to make sure that that's clear for the record.
Yeah, that's clear. You mentioned 10% goes to the city. That's usually general fund. And then 75% of the salary for the officer also get paid out of that. And then eventually the rest of the money goes to the CSU Center. And assuming that's how it's split. Right?
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'm going to hit mute if, Paul, if you want to answer any questions too.
So yes, if Mr. Rodriguez, if the gentleman from the Lawrence Family Development would identify himself, if you would like to say any words.
Sure. My name is Paul Heithaus. I'm the Director of Program Development for Lawrence Family Development and the CSU program. Ralph Curl apologizes. He wanted to be here this evening, but he's actually traveling. So I can do a couple things for you. I have a report on the outcomes that we had for FY 20. We're in FY 21 now. Yes. So I have a report on the outcomes we had for FY 20, which I can send to the council. You know, I could go through them all now, but it would probably mean more to see them in person or to see them on paper. And I would be glad to talk a little bit further. I could also have one or two of our staff members talk about some of the direct work that we're doing. So yeah, I'd be
Yeah,
glad to do
definitely. I
whatever
mean,
you need.
the information that you have, if you have information now, that's fine. But I mean, I would like this, the entire city council to have it.
Yep.
And you're probably going to be more prepared
Yeah.
for next week when we have the meet next week, right? Yes. Next week when we have the meeting on the 3rd, I believe it is. And then you kind of like, you know, you could present quick presentation, a couple of sheets of what you guys are doing, the programs that you guys are offering to the community. If you guys have any flyers that you can share with us, and information in regard to, you know, I'm assuming that about $500,000 get to the organization, how we spend that money. I mean,
Yep, absolutely. I can absolutely do that. And actually, I'd like to invite you all. We'll be unveiling our next Little Free Library on April 9th at one of the churches on East Haverhill. I believe it's 96 East Haverhill. It is the Santos Family Church. So that'll be our 3rd one. We'll also be doing a 4th one in May and a 5th one, or a 4th one in April and a 5th one at the beginning of May. But yes, I will definitely have that for you for the next the full city council meeting. I will send out some data beforehand so that you all can look at it. If you have questions, you can definitely ask questions. And in response to Councilor Payano, the event is going to be between 2:30 and 3. This particular Little Free Library is sponsored by Representative Minicucci, and her daughter's Girl Scout troop is collecting books for the Little Free Library. So we're trying to schedule it so that they can be there for the event as well. And the mayor has a meeting till 2:30, so we're shooting for sometime between 2:30 and 3. I hope to have a solid time by the end of this week, and I'll be sending out an email, but we'd love to have you all there as well. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Ms. Rodriguez, and thank you for referring that and bringing it to the floor. Did you have any further comments or questions, Ms. Rodriguez?
no, I'm fine. I'm all set.
Sounds good. Any other councilors have any other questions, concerns, motions?
Motion to send to the full council will favor recommendation.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Council Payano. It has been properly seconded by Council Rodriguez. Is
Quick
there any
question.
discussion?
Quick question, is the order was put together on March 16, and it says it's sponsored by Mayor Don Rivera. You mean Mayor Candice Vasquez?
Where are you looking?
Yeah, there probably is a typo by me. I apologize. I probably was cutting and pasting off of last year's form, so I apologize, Council. I can fix that before the next meeting. That's my fault.
All right, no problem.
Point of clarification. What form are we referring to?
Just that,
We do a declaration that's basically the formal,
declaration, yes.
and I definitely took
Got it.
last year's form and cleaned it up for this year, and I clearly didn't clean it up enough. So thank you. That's my mistake, and I will fix that. I'm sorry, Councilor.
All right.
Good pickup by the councilor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I found it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Roll call for document 5421 that was sent to the full council with favorable recommendation. Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Pavel Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Anna Levy,
Yes.
Chairman David Abdu.
And I vote, the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And congratulations to Lawrence Family Development and Ms. Brunel. This will go to the full council meeting on April 6th for its consideration, and it goes with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you all.
Thank you. The last new agenda item this evening before us is 5521. It is acceptance of funds relating to the Stanton Foundation for a second canine in the amount up to $14,000. Once again, submitted to us by Eileen Burnell, LPD Director of Support Services and former City Councilor. With that, I would ask Ms. Burnell once again, introduce herself and tell us why we are here for this item and what exactly the Stanton Funds money will procure for the city.
So thank you, Councilor. You may recall, councilors, that back in the fall, we got a grant from the Stanton Foundation called Second Dog, which allowed us to acquire a second dog. His name is Baker. He works with the officer Andres Calderon, that's the handler. And the way that grant is set up is they give you some initial funding, which we accepted, you guys approved, and we've been moving on with that. And then Officer Calderon has made a commitment to attend and complete a canine police academy with Baker. And so when they complete that program, the Stanton Foundation will then reimburse us for the overtime that it cost us to have Officer Calderon at that academy, which is this $14,000 upon his successful completion. So we mail them, a copy of his graduation certificate, and then they offer us these additional funds. So this $14,000 would be that overtime reimbursement for Officer Calderon's time at the Canine Academy, which is run through the City of Boston's Police Academy, which he did this past fall. So they break their grant down into two parts. So to get the second part, he has to complete it successfully, which he has done, and we're proud of him. He did a great job.
And so I only have one question. That is, does Baker get overtime as well, or is that just straight time?
Read or something, but yeah, no, unfortunately, Baker does not. I will say it's kind of a neat program, and now that we have 2 dogs and 2 shifts, it's been really great for the department, but also to create kind of a unit is nice for the officers among themselves too. They have someone else with the same skill set, you know, working on the same stuff, so it's kind of nice to have some camaraderie in that aspect. The dogs each live with a separate officer, so the dogs don't have a lot of interaction, but it's a good thing.
Thank you. Great program. And I turn it over to my colleagues for any questions or items that they may have. Or motions.
Motion to send to the full council with favorable recommendation.
Second,
There's a motion by Councilor Payano to send it to the full council with a favorable recommendation. It's been properly seconded by Councilor Levy. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I would, all those in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. However, I'd ask the clerk to please take a roll call.
A roll call for document 5521 that was sent to the full council with favorable recommendation. Councilor Anna Levy,
Yes,
Councilor Pavel Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez,
Rodriguez, you're on mute.
Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez.
He's coming. And he's nodding yes. The council, let the record show
Okay.
Councilor Rodriguez votes in the affirmative,
And Chairman David Abdu.
and the chair votes in the affirmative, yes. So that is a
4-0.
4-0 vote. And congratulations, Ms. Burnell. And we'll see you on April 6th.
Sounds great. Councilors, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Oh, she left. I was going to ask her a legal opinion. So we
I'm
have.
here.
You still there?
Yeah, I had called in and my mic isn't working on my computer, so I actually am on the phone too.
Well, if I could beg your attention for a moment as an attorney, I know it's not official legal counsel, but we have minutes before us for consideration, but they're not on the agenda. Do you suggest I hold these for the next meeting?
Yeah, for purposes of public,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, notice, you probably want to hold those. That's unfortunate, yeah.
Okay, so we do have minutes. We will entertain those at our first meeting in April. Thank you, Councilor Piano. I got your signal as well. Thank you, Councilor Burnell, for hanging around a couple moments.
I'm going to hang up now, though, for real.
Okay, hang up for real now. With that, we do have tabled items. I'll entertain any motions you may have or any other motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
There's a motion to adjourn and it was quickly seconded. Mr. Piano made the first, Ms. Levy the second. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Clerk, one last time, if you would take the roll call for
Thank you.
adjournment.
Roll call to adjourn at 7:32 p.m. Councilor Anna Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Pavel Pajano,
Yes.
Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez,
Yes.
and the chairman, David Abdu.
Chair votes yes. Thank you to my colleagues this evening and thank you to those at home. And next meeting of the full council will be April 6th. Thank you all and have a good night.
Bye, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.